Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thanks so much for clicking on the video. It means a lot that you keep clicking. If you guys keep clicking, I'll keep making. And today, I want to talk about who can win the season. I feel like I've said that we're going to stop this series like every day on this channel, but I feel like we just can't stop it because I feel like it's great, especially in this end game where we want to discuss, when we feel like certain people are falling out of contention or falling into it. The game's very fluid at this point, and anybody can switch off of being able to win. And so I do feel like overall, I'm pretty confident in almost everybody to win. Spoiler, I only have one person who I feel like has no chance to win, and I think you guys know who that person is. As always, I'm just going to go through, I'm going to talk about what I feel like makes a winner, and then I'm also going to just discuss like overall who I feel like fits those criteria, who I feel like does not, and then we'll talk about the people who I feel like have a chance, and I'll rank them 1 through 4. But first, 70% of you guys who are watching these videos are not subscribed. Let's change that. It's easy and it's free. And if that's it, let's go right into the video. So I'm going to talk about one person first, and then after that we'll talk about the other 5 people. I will say stay to the end of the video to find out what tomorrow's video is going to be. It's a pretty good one. I'm pretty excited to go film it right after this. But the first thing that I feel like what makes a winner, right, is a decent edit, right? The winner never really gets like a big villain edit or a purple edit by any means. A villain edit is more common in a winner. Like we've had a Richard Hatch or a Brian Heidick win the game, but I feel like we've never really had a purple edited player win the game, except for maybe Natalie White. And so it does feel like overall that we're looking at some sort of trend that the people who win the game usually have a decent edit. A decent edit doesn't mean that you have to be like Cochran or from Caramoan, where you have 100+ confessionals. You just need to not have a bad edit, really, not have an actively bad edit. The second one that I have is you usually will have personal content, right? So we really don't see people, who just, we don't know who that person is, and then they win the game. Even people like Michelle, who won the game with such low edits, they had personal content. We knew who they were. We knew what their struggles were. We knew them as a person, right? Because we know everybody as a player if they get one confessional, because they're usually talking about gameplay. The difference between those and the people who have shots to win are the people who have personal content about them as a person and not necessarily just as a player. And the other half of that is just seeing the game from their perspective. So sometimes we only see games from certain people's perspective, right? And we'll get a few people who are like, we don't even really know like what they want to do or why they're doing the actions that they are, and those people usually don't win, right? We see like the winner's perspective on the game very often, right? We never really see a season in which we don't know why the winner made the moves that they did. That's usually something that we know either before final tribal or after. But we usually figure out by the end why they made their big blindside or why they made their big error in the game. That's usually clarified for us in the edit. So the first two are about edits, and the last one is just them being a decent player. Usually we at least have decent players in the game. It's very, very rare to see just a winner that is a straight up bad player at the game in all facets. In fact, the only really example that I can think of somebody who won who was just a straight up bad player is probably Bob in Gabon. But aside from that, I really can't think of one person who I feel like won the game and was just a genuinely poor player at the game. Because usually to get even to the end, you have to be decent in some facet, unless you're a complete goat. And usually goats don't win the game usually. So as far as who applies to that first one of having a decent edit, like who does not have a decent edit, I would say Heather is out of the running based on the fact that she does not have a decent edit. I feel like Heather obviously has gotten like a purple edit, where if you don't know what that is, basically where she gets no screen time because production just doesn't want to show her. The purple edit never wins the show, and I don't think that they're going to start at all, but definitely not in this season. I think that it would be an absolute shock to everyone if Heather won the game. It would be just like, what in the world? As far as who does not have the second one of having personal content and or seeing the game from their perspective, I think that Heather also applies to this one. The issue is that Heather's already out of the running anyway, based off her not having a good edit. So nobody else really applies to this. I feel like everybody else in the game besides Heather has seen personal content, and we've seen the game from their perspective multiple times, I feel like. every single person who's left in the game besides Heather. And the third one, who is not a good player? I feel like, again, Heather's your only option here. And because Heather's out of the running here, I think everybody else left is a decently good player, just like a genuinely good strategic and social player of the game. And I feel like even if you look at the game from all facets, I feel like everybody has like a leg to stand on who's left. And that leads me into my ranking, right? So how do I have these other 5 players ranked, right? So I'm putting them from 5 to 1, 5 being the worst position to and this again, this is purely winning the game. Like if someone's a very high variance player, that's different. I'm talking about pure ability to win the game, not who's playing the best game, not who's the most likable, who can win the game and who is set up to do so the best right now. So right now we have, I believe it's Danny at 5. Okay, so we have Danny at 5. I will say my 4 and my 5 are very miles behind my 1, 2, and 3. Danny is in that bottom tier for me, although I do think that he still has a shot to win after his personal content from last episode. My first reason for saying that is really just the fact that on this next time on Survivor, we saw that Danny and Deshawn were on the bottom, and I feel like if someone is going to wiggle their way out of trouble, it's probably Deshawn more than Danny. I think that Danny's relationships are worse than Deshawn's are, and I think Danny's edit is also worse than Deshawn. So I feel like if they were gonna if production was going to edit someone out of the game, as in someone who's going to next episode, I feel like Deshawn's edit is almost too good to go in the next episode. I think if Deshawn goes, it'll be enforced fire making challenge, and so I think that's a benefit on his side. I will say I think Danny is on top of that also a big jury threat as far as likability. So if the jury is going to be bitter at Ricard and Deshawn, Danny's a great candidate to kind of just take up pity votes and bitter votes. And this really puts a big target on his back as far as that facet of the game goes and being a jury threat. Next, I have Erica. I feel like Erica beats Danny out here because I feel like Erica beats more people than Danny. I think Danny beats Heather for sure. I think maybe he beats Erica, but I feel like if it was Erica versus Danny, I feel like Erica probably beats Danny in a final tribal. That's just what I personally believe. I understand that Danny's in this camp out alliance, but the issue is that Danny isn't someone who I'm saying, okay, the entire camp out is just lock votes for. If it's Deshawn there, or if it was Shan there, I feel like that's a different story, but I feel like Danny does not have all of the camp out votes locked up. I think he has Deshawn's vote locked up. I do not think that Liana and Shane are 100% loyal to voting only black people if it's Danny there. If it's Deshawn there, I think it's a different story. But Danny being not as much of a strategical force there, I feel like Danny is probably not the person who they're going to just undeniably only vote for him based on the fact that he was in the Camp Out Alliance. Then we have a huge jump from my 4 to my 3. So at 4 I have Erica, at 3 I have Xander. This is a huge jump now into this next tier. We have the 3 guys who are left here. I think these 3 guys are set up to all set up to win the game against several people. I think they all beat Erica, Danny, and Heather, which I think is pretty impressive. And so that's why they're kind of miles ahead of these other people, because I do personally feel like they're probably going to beat all 3 of these. Maybe we have a few exceptions where Xander might lose to Danny. I think Ricard could I think Ricard beats everybody probably, but I do think that Deshawn could lose to like a Erica maybe, or even Danny if Shan is super bitter, because Liana will also vote with Shan in Final Tribal, so it's a very complicated case. But I do have Xander at 3 because I feel like out of these 3, I think the other 2 beat Xander. I think Xander needs to go up against a Danny, Erica, or a Danny and Heather. I do think that Xander could still win a Final Tribal against probably Deshawn, and hope that Shan and Liana will flip their votes. I also think that he could win against Ricard. I think the issue is that Liana and Shan are probably both going to vote Ricard. Shan because Ricard's her number 1 ally, and Liana because she obviously Xander doesn't like her, so she doesn't like Xander. I mean, she said it like out loud that she hates his face, so she's probably not going to give him $1 million, and so that's already 2 votes that you have lost. I think on top of that, the first 3 jury members are Xander's big swing votes. I think Xander needs them, and if Xander doesn't get them, I think his entire chance at winning is gone. And by those first three jury members, I mean Evie, Tiffany, and Nasir. I feel like he needs all three of those votes plus one extra. I will say what's on his side is the fact that the third place finisher would vote for him if there was a 4-4 tie, since the jury is going to be a jury of 8. If the vote goes 4-4, the third place finisher would probably vote for Xander, because that third placer is probably going to be either, I would say it's going to be either Erica, Heather, maybe Danny, but I'd say Erica and Heather definitely vote for Xander in that spot over like a Deshaun or a Ricard for the win. I even think that if it's a Ricard, Xander, and Danny final tribal, I think Danny probably votes for Xander in that spot as well. At number 2, I have Deshaun. I feel like Deshaun for me is someone who I'm a little wishy-washy. His edit isn't exactly perfect, but I think the issue is that really puts him over almost everybody except for Ricard, is the fact that Deshaun for me has gotten a consistently good edit from day one. Ricard is not, right? And so I'll just start talking about Ricard as well. I feel like while Deshaun has played a better game so far, I think Ricard is set up where if he can take out either a Deshaun or a Xander, that is like the big move that he needs to really put himself over. Like I think right now, Ricard probably beats Deshaun by a very narrow vote. I think it may be a tie where Heather or Erica votes Ricard in that spot. But I think on top of that, I think Ricard probably beats Xander right now, like handedly, like probably 6-2 or 5-3. And so I do think that we're probably gonna get Ricard beating Xander. I think Ricard maybe doesn't beat Deshaun. I think that Ricard needs to get Shannon and Liana's vote to beat Deshaun. I think Shannon and Liana are huge swing votes when you're talking about a Ricard versus Deshaun final tribal. And I do feel like Ricard's advantage there is that if it ties, the third placer probably votes for Ricard in that spot. I also think that Shan and Liana will probably vote, or at least I think Shan will definitely vote probably Ricard in that spot. I do think that Liana, who's probably closer to Deshaun, I think she may vote for Deshaun in that spot, which makes it an even closer vote. But I do think that right now, although Deshaun's played the better game, I think that right now Ricard is set up right now. If he can survive this round, I think he wins in fire against anybody. I think he beats Deshaun in fire. I think he beats Xander in fire probably. And so I feel like that's his path to the end, is if he can like barring a final tribal where he's going up against Xander and Deshaun, because then he didn't make the move, right? He didn't make the move to take out a Xander or a Deshaun threat in the game. But as long as that's not the final tribal, that means that he made the move to take out one of them, and that means more on his resume to win at the end. And that's just my personal opinion. I will say right now, if I had to put my life on somebody winning, it would be Deshaun. Even though Ricard is at 1, I think that Deshaun's game right now, I feel like Deshaun could probably convince Shan and Liana to vote based on race lines. And if that's the case, now he has Danny, he has Shan, he has Liana. He could probably pull over a Xander maybe if he's on the jury. And I feel like if that's the case, that's already 4. And then, or is it 5? I don't know. But he's basically already there. And so I would go for him. I feel like the issue is Deshaun's not set up to go on a run right now. Deshaun would win right now. It's just that Deshaun may have the win slip out of his hands based on Ricard possibly making a run at the end and building a really good resume. Similar to like a Chris Underwood in that way, where Chris had no chance of winning at 6, even if he went to the end with Rick Devens. But by the end, especially after the way that he took out Rick, I feel like he goes to the end and wins that 10 times out of 10 because he played 3 perfect rounds. And if Ricard can do the same here, I think Ricard wins probably pretty dominantly over Deshaun. And so that's why I have Ricard here at number 1. But I'm curious, guys, who do you guys think is the person who is the hidden winner? Who's the winner, the person who's going to take it all? Who do you guys have as your winner picks right now? Who has no shot of winning right now? Is there someone besides Heather that I missed that has no shot of winning? Are you at one of these weird Erica stands who feels like Erica has the game locked up? If so, seek mental help, but also like my video. Speaking of like my video, tomorrow we are going to be talking about if Survivor 41 can be the best season ever, right? Can it even get in the top 5? Can it get in the top 10? I just want to discuss if Survivor 41, if the finale is the best of all time, does it have a shot at least getting in that top 10 or 5? You tell me in the comments. Obviously, the video will come out tomorrow on 8. Thank you guys for make to the end of this video. None of this happens without you guys. I'm just a weird guy talking into a microphone. That's how I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.